Hey guys, it's Brad from Blue Nile Farm. Welcome to the channel. It's October 2025. We just had our new building put up. The one I'm standing in, it's been up for less than a month, and I'm really kind of happy. We finally got to move the rebaling operation into the barn. So I want to take you through the setup, show you what we did, and if you're interested in rebaling, I'll kind of show you considerations you may need to think about when you set up a rebaling outfit, or if you're just interested in it, let me kind of walk you through some of the parameters I guess you might want to consider when you do this. So stay tuned. So the first thing you need to do if you're going to do a rebaling in the building, you need to figure out what kind of length you need to really get set up. In my barn right now, from the front of that tractor all the way back to where we have hay wagons, it's actually 60 foot in length. So you're going to need at least 60 foot just to set up your tractor, your your unroller, your baler, and your wagons, and that would take you 60 foot. If you're going to have dry hay in here, you're going to add another, distance to it. So that's kind of the concerns that you may have as far as building goes. Now for me, I'm going to go using at least 75 foot for round bales that are prepped, unstrung, ready to be put into the unroller, and we can process hay that way. And that's just the way my setup is. But generally, my whole building is loaded with hay. And we have hay stacked all the way down along the walls, all the way down to the end and coming around, and that's how I normally maintain my hay. But because this barn is going to hold my equipment this year, next year we're building a new barn specifically for hay and rebaling. That's going to be another factor when we completely change our operation from where we are today. But for most people, you set up inside where it's dry, keep the weather out, the rain out, and you don't have to move the stuff around because it's very tedious to do. And I prefer to bale inside because when I'm ready to bale, I just throw a couple bales in the unroller, bale them right through the system, and I'm up and done quickly. And that's the way I prefer to do it. So I keep this thing stationary all year round, and I don't move it and I don't change it. But make sure you have enough barn space that you can maintain this. And as far as width goes, I have about 30 foot wide and, again, 60 foot long. That is the minimum to do rebaling without counting the bales. So if you're planning on a system like this, kind of keep that kind of number in your mind. So let's kind of work through the equipment that you need to rebale. Obviously, you need a power source. I prefer to use a tractor. Some guys have stationary motors, but it needs to operate hydraulics as well as have a PTO. So I prefer just to use the tractor because it's simpler, and if I need it, I can move it out. If I have a breakdown, I can replace it with another tractor. So I had that option. Secondly, as far as power source goes, make sure you use a tractor that doesn't have strong fumes, because if you're inside the building and it's producing a lot of fumes, it'll gas you out. This tractor, this little LS, works great for rebaling. It produces very, 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 very low fumes. I mean, you barely know it's even in this barn. I can bale in here with the doors shut, and I feel pretty good about it. So it's a good little tractor. It does what it needs to do. And the tractor has to have a set of remotes on it because that remote is going to work the unroller. So those are my considerations. Also, when you put your tractor in, the previous barn, I had my tractor facing the wall, and it was kind of a real pain to move it in and out. Now I have it facing basically an empty wall where it's easy to pull out, and I think that's actually going to be a lot better for us. And even if you had a setup like this, even if you had it facing like a door where you can pull it in and out, that would be ideal, because a lot of times you may use your tractor for other purposes and you don't have it locked down. So that's a very important factor. Keep that in your mind when you set up for rebaling. I have a Hustler bale and roller 1500, and I bought this thing probably 10, 12 years ago, and it's been a great machine. I've never had any maintenance problems with it. It's easy to handle. The only thing I did is I welded on the bottom some metal so I can actually stick a set of forks in here to pick this up and move it around, because it is very tedious and hard to move around. And with those tubes, I can grab it with forks and move it wherever I want it, and it makes it easy, because you do have to clean underneath this thing numerous times throughout the year, and you may have to break down for some reason, and being able to pull it in and out, it works out good. You can use a tractor, you could use a skid steer. Also, it has to be put in place specifically between in front of the baler, and because it has to be in front of the baler, it has to be close, but not too close. And, when I first started, I put it actually probably too close. I've learned that, once, no matter what you do, hay is going to fall between the baler and the unroller. It's going to create a shelf. And once that shelf's created, hay is just going to keep flowing right into the baler, and it's really not going to matter. So you don't have to have them so close on top of each other, but closer the better. It does help because it does get the material inside. So, and that's really the simplicity of this. As far as baler goes, I have a John Deere 338. That's what I use. You can have an inline baler. That may work for you. It really doesn't matter on your setup. And the biggest thing is, how do you control the feed? With me, I have a stand that I've created that to basically use to control the bale unwinder, which will actually produce the feed and the speed that needs to feed it into the baler. This is the bale controller. I wound up having a stand made for it. And now a Hustler basically has a stand connected to the bale unroller, and I'm thinking their price is probably a lot greater. Basically, I wound up getting the spools from like Agri Supply and basically getting them set up. This is a Chief brand, and I had it mounted to a stand, had the stand made. So basically, I have long hoses, and they go to the remotes, and they only control the bale unroller. And it works out pretty well. I have quick attach here, but I don't never take them apart. I try to keep them all together in one piece, and I've never actually did take them apart. But that'd probably be a lot easier way of moving this around. I also, because this is a dirt floor, I have 4x6 mats that are here that are stall mats that are put in place to keep the debris from getting stuck into the ground, because especially with moisture and dirt, I don't want it to come up on the hay that's underneath this. And we try to keep this clean at all times. But you will have a lot of buildup no matter what. So the easier you can clean around this area, the better off you'll be. Then as the bales are actually coming out from the unroller, they're basically going to go up on a wagon. We chose to have wagons. They're stationary. They never move. And I stack them on the wagon. And so I use them or I sell them right where they sit. Generally, I have customers, like I have a customer coming today. He's going to buy 80 bales. He'll come, we'll load him up real quick, and off he goes. And then we'll start baling again and making sure our wagons are full for supply. I don't sell the large guys. I sell to most people buying 100 bales or less, consistent basis. And that's my market. I basically deal with the small farmer, and it works out for me. And it works up to the volume that I have. And this year, more so than not, because of not having a barn, and I'm going to show you where I keep my supply of hay. It's changed how we do things, and this year has been a bad year for crops in general. We've had a lot of drought, and hay production for most people has kind of been late in the year, and I never got a second cutting off mine, and so I don't have the volume that I usually have. So that's a big difference too. So, but because I do re-baling, I also buy hay from others, and I will probably go back and buy some if I need to keep the production going. And that's doesn't matter to me because I still make money either way. So that's the name of the game. So, but have your wagons set up stationary. Now, the other way I would think about doing wagons, if I was like doing larger scale, is have them back them in, and where you can just kind of walk across them, and you can load them up and pull them out as you need to. That's an easier option. But this is the setup that I have. It's very simple, very basic. It's just kind of like going in the field without the bumps and the weather and the heat. Everything's sitting right where it needs to be, and it works out good for me. A couple of things I want to mention too real quick is getting up on top of wagons. I have a 3-step mounting block. We use that. Makes it a lot easier going up and down the hay wagons. I'm getting older, and it just drives me crazy to do that. So that works out good. Also, I got these big bulk bags. I use them a lot of times so we can carry them and put them underneath, as we clean underneath some of the chaff, we'll clean out underneath the baler, and there's certain spots in the baler that you have to clean. We clean those areas out, we stick them in here. Then I'll drag these out and I'll dump them in the horse stalls or put them out in the field, and the animals will eat them, because I really don't want the hay to go to waste. There's nothing wrong with it. And a lot of times the animals like it better because it has the seeds and some of the fines. and it works out real good. But you got to keep this area clean, and this is really an easy way to manage it that I found that works best for me. Another way I do is I'll bring a loader tractor, bring it up here, load it in the loader tractor, then I'll have to go outside and I'll put it into a dump trailer, and then that dump trailer I'll dump out in the pasture and let them eat it that way. So there's different options and different ways you do it. It all depends on what kind of equipment you have. This is the easy and cheap way if you're getting started. But if you have multiple equipment like I do, I just kind of transfer from point A to point B, and you just got to keep this moving at all times because, daily, multiple times during the day, you're going to have to clean underneath the knotters, and normally every day, at least once, you have to clean underneath the plunger. Those are the two biggest areas where this buildup takes place. And then probably once every couple hundred bales to every 1,000 bales, depending on how your hay breaks off when it goes into the baler, you're going to have to clean between the baler and the unroller. And you're going to have several yards of material that you're going to be pulling out of there that actually falls down that's easily fettable, but as far as animals go, but it actually turns into fines because it kind of gets beat up. You've got to clean that out. So when you decide how you set everything up, you have to figure out a way that you can get access to all these pieces. That's why you don't want to go too close to the wall, but you also don't want to lose space. And that's something you need to kind of consider when you put this together. I'm probably 2 to 3 feet at least away from my wall. I could be actually out a little bit farther, which would be a little bit better. But I'm trying to optimize my space in here. And this year, because I only have one building and I'm going to house majority of my equipment in here, this is kind of a change because traditionally this is my indoor riding arena. This is normally my hay storage, but I have a lot of money in equipment, and this year it's staying inside and will not be put outside. So everything's coming in, and like I said, once that new barn goes up this next year, it's going to be a whole different ball game, and you'll see this whole program completely transition to a different way. But it's always going to be similar to this because this is basically, if you're going to use a Hustler bale unroller, this is generally going to be somewhat your setup. Now, do you need to have hay wagons? No. But for me, it works out good. Some people, you may have a grapple where you can grab 10 at a time and stack them somewhere. You may basically just drop them on the ground and stack them against the wall. I mean, it all depends on what works best for you. For me, this works for me, and I try to duplicate what I would do in the field. And I don't have a lot of expense in this. I mean, these little wagons are cheap. They're really not real good on the road, or they're not good in the field, and they work perfect for this. And they're low-cost wagons. I think I paid $300 to $500 each, and they paid for themselves 10 times over because they're doing what they do. So it works out good. So since my barn fell down, I had no choice. I had to make hay this year, and I didn't have a place to put it. So I have a bale wrapper, and I wrapped in black plastic dry hay, and this is where we store them right now. They're sitting on wood chips. They're above the ground, and they're somewhat dry. The one thing I've learned about wrapping hay is I've never had perfect bales that don't get moist inside, and there's just certain spots that moisture actually gets into, and it's not a bad thing. But what I realize is what we'll do is we'll grab a bunch of hay, we'll cut them open, we'll open them up. You might see a little bit of wet on certain sections of the bale. We'll let them air dry, within a couple days. If it's a sunny day like today, they'll be dry by evening, and basically we'll put them in the barn once they dry off. If it's winter time, in about a week or so, as long as you keep your supply going, they dry out pretty easy, and it's not enough moisture to really be as concerned. It's just on one little spot. A lot of times you can just drag it and rip it off if you don't like it or it doesn't look good to you, and then bale that way. But the bale, almost all the rest of the bale is perfect. So I've had good luck wrapping. I'm going to try this year. Basically, none of these bales are going to be inside the barn because I've already spent a lot of money in wrap. So we're going to see how this works out this year because I have no way of doing it. But ideally, you want to keep your round bales inside your barn and keep them dry. That's really the best thing I can tell you. And the amount of damage that happens to these bales is very minimal right now. And I find that wood chips has been so far the best thing I put down. Keeps that base dry, and any moisture goes right into the chips, and it doesn't, sit around that bale. So that's been a positive thing, I have to say. But sometimes on the top, and I'll talk about this in another video, I've been noticing little spots already. No matter what, they get wet, but they dry off quickly, and it's very, very minimal. So I'd say damage wise is not even 1% at this point. So I'm not dissatisfied with doing a wrap right now. But this is our supply. We prop them and then they go into the barn. And let me show you what happens after that. So after we remove the bale from the black plastic and it dries, we bring it into the barn here and they're set up where the top of that bale, if you're looking at it, is going to be going into clockwise position. And the reason why that is if I pull this bale down and I spirit it and I put it in the bale unroller, it's going to be put in the position it needs to be so it will unwrap properly into the baler. And that's just a quick tip I want to tell you. But everything is set up for a reason. And it is also the top of the bale. So like majority of when I wrap my hay, when I'm done, where the most of the string is basically the top. These are all string tied. If they're net wrapped, it doesn't matter. The strings are removed completely. They are not cut. They're actually unwrapped. And if there's net wrap, we get all the net wrap off. And then, again, the bales are set up here. And then as we need them, we just stick them into the baler until they're all gone. And we have square bales. Very, very simple. Again, account for an area that you need to deal with your dry hay because you're going to need it. And you want to set yourself up where you can grab it and stick it quickly into the unroller. As these are untied, you're going to see a lot of hay falling out, and it's also going to create a loss. So again, you want to reduce your losses and get as much hay back into your baler as possible. You know, I still have hay on the ground here. We've baled several hundred bales, but every day when we get done, I'll take a pitchfork and I will take anything I can get loose and I'll stick it into the bale unroller and bale it up because, again, that's money. And every bale makes me money. So every bale you can make, it makes your profit. Hey guys, that was just a quick little demonstration of how I set up my rebaling operation for this coming year. It's relatively the same as I've done in previous videos, except for it's a little bit of a change with a little bit of modifications, but it's all relatively the same. And hopefully you got something from this video. If you're interested in rebaling, I like it. I think it's very profitable, and I think it works best for my operation. It does not work for everybody, and if you do grass hay, rebaling's for you. If you're doing in the legumes like clovers and alfalfa, it probably will not work for you because of leaf shatter. But if you're in the grass hay and you want to make some money and you don't have the time it takes to do it in the field, this is a great option. It works good for me. And maybe you might want to do a combination of doing it in the field and do it inside. You know, there's no rules about how to do this, but it is a good way of producing hay throughout the year. And if you're like me fighting time constraints, this is the only way. I would never, every year I try to make square bales in the field and it turns into a nightmare. I can't stand it. I don't have the help. People promise they're going to come out and pick off the field. They don't pick off the field, and I'm stuck doing all this labor, and it slows me way down. I prefer wholeheartedly just to take these bales, bring them home, and run them through the baler. And some people think that that's extra work, but I'm be honest with you, I save more time doing it when it's under my control than when I'm forced to deal with Mother Nature. And a lot of times when you don't have the help or you have to fight the weather, when you're doing it in a controlled environment, you can do it when you want. You know, I've baled hay on snowstorms. I baled it past midnight. I baled early in the morning. I bale it whenever I feel like it. It could be raining out, pouring out. It doesn't matter. You know, when you're inside, you can do whatever you want, and that's why I love rebaling. So hopefully this is helpful to some people. If you have any questions, leave me a note. Follow my playlist. I cover a lot of different aspects of how to rebale, what it takes, and basically how to do it. And so check out my playlist, and you'll see a lot of different videos on how to rebale and why you should rebale. Until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.